Welcome to Inner Niña Podcast, embracing your inner child while leading with strength. This is a space for Latina women and beyond who are ready to break generational cycles and lead from a place of wholeness. Together, we will reconnect with the little girl inside, the one who dreamed big, felt deeply, and longed to be seen, and honor her as we step in fully into our power. Join me, Maria Benitez, for heartfelt reflections and empowering conversations about identity, healing, culture, and leadership. Each episode invites you to embrace your inner niña while leading with authenticity, compassion, and courage. Welcome back to Inner Niña. Today we welcome a very special guest. Her name is Alejandra Castaneda. Alejandra is a Mexican native, the oldest of 4 siblings, and a current college student studying medicine. She's working to become a thoracic surgeon. Welcome, Alejandra. Thank you for joining us today and supporting our Inner Niña journey. I'm so excited. I know you have been busy, conquering the world and studying. So I just am so blessed that you had time so we can get together and I get to know you because I've heard so much about you already from your bestie.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us today. So how are you?
Oh my God, good. I was a little nervous to be here today, but now that I spoke to you a little, I'm actually super excited. I love what you're doing. Seriously, I hope that younger girls and younger generations hear this. That there's more in life than just working as, there's nothing wrong with any job, but I think that some of the younger generations are so focused on just being on social media.
Yeah.
That it's like, no, there's so much more out here for us, and we have to represent our Latinas.
Absolutely. And find the passion, right? It could be whatever. They're making money and the marketing, social media, influencer, good for them. I'll make sure it's a long-term career that they have, but it's like following your passion. Because if you
What you
follow your
love,
passion, right? If you love what you're doing, then it doesn't feel like work. So you
It
enjoy
doesn't.
coming to work, right? So I want to give you this opportunity for you to share your story. One thing that your bestie told me, which is one of mi mana daughters, I love so much, Maria. She's like, she has an incredible story. And I'm like, well,
Maria.
get her in. Let's get her in. Let's have her share it. So walk us through your journey, your background, family dynamics. What are you doing?
Oh, of course. I am the oldest of 4 and the only girl in my house. I have 3 brothers. One is 23. He has 3 kids already.
Wow.
He's a busy man.
Yeah.
The other one is 18. He is in college, and the other one is 10 years old. So there's a big gap in there. But me and then the other 2, the 10-year-old was born here, but me and the other 2 were born in Mexico. So I was up in Mexico from when I was born to the time I turned 12 years old. And I grew up with just my mom, basically. My dad would go every 6 months, every 8 months, spend a couple months with us, and then come back and work, and then we'll go back. And he was just always going back and forth. But my mom was always there. She was a stay-at-home mom, so she never had to work. And I think that one of the reasons why I am where I am today is because of her. Because she would always tell me, I don't want you to be a housewife, and I don't want you to learn how to cook and clean for a man. I want you to learn how to cook and clean for you. Because one day you're going to be grown and you're going to go to college. And she would always tell me that. And you have to know how to cook for yourself. I always tell her, I'm like, I think that's the reason why I am where I am today. Because it was never the typical, enséñate para que te cases. No. It was always the, enséñate para ti, hazlo por ti, para ti. Porque she would always tell me, like, your dad and I are always going to be around, and you have to know how to defend yourself. And I think also because I was the only girl, she almost felt like she had to show me more than she had to show my brothers. So when I turned 12 in June, my dad told me that the green card process had been approved and that he was going to bring us here. I was so excited, Maria. So excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to me voy al norte, like U.S., I thought that the U.S. was like, I thought of like New York City, like the big buildings and this beautiful world. And I was like, oh my God. And then September comes around. We go to our appointment, everything gets approved, so we come here. And oh my God, I didn't want to be here. I used to cry so much, and I used to beg my dad, please send me back. I don't want to be here. Because I didn't understand anything, and kids are mean.
Yeah.
in school. When you don't know the language, kids, I used to get bullied.
Wow.
So I used to cry to my dad and I used to say, I don't want to be here. People are so mean and I don't understand anything. And one night, my dad was working as, I think he used to work for a yard company. He used to do outside work. So he came home from work and I was doing homework, but I remember I was crying and doing homework. I didn't even know what I was doing. So I was just doing homework. And he came and he told me, okay, at that point, we had been here for like a month. He said, if a year from today, you still feel the same, you can go back. Because my grandparents were there.
Uh-huh.
He said, and then I would forever remember that conversation because 7 months later, I was the student of the year in the middle school.
Sure.
Like top, just A student, English. I was out of the ESL classes. And I just remember like right there and there, I was like, if I did this, I can do anything I want to do. All I have to do is send my mind to it and work for it. Of course, nothing is going to be given to me. Like, oh, here's a college degree. No, but I knew right in there, like, if this is what I want. So then my parents were always super supportive. And that's one thing that I never had to struggle with. I know a lot of Latinas struggle with parents. They don't want them to leave their house. And my dad was always like, no, like, if you want to go across the country, that's okay. Like, we support you. But I also always knew that I had to be really smart so I could get scholarships. Because there was no way they were going to pay for college. Like, we just couldn't afford it financially. My dad was working at that, I think like 2 years after he brought us, he got his CDL. So he started working as a truck driver. He was making a little more money, but not enough to put someone through college, right? And then my mom was working 2 jobs. So I would come home from school at 2, between like 2 and 3 p.m. And my mom used to work her night job. So I used to babysit the little one. So I was raising my siblings and putting myself through school because my mom was working 2 jobs. My dad would come home like at 7 or 8. By that time, the kids were sleeping. And I say the kids like they're mine because I was generally raising them. Sebastian was probably 1 year old, maybe months. I don't remember exactly, but I would give Sebastian a bath. I would feed him and I would put him to sleep. And I would give dinner to the other 2, wash the dishes. I would sometimes cook like eggs or anything I could make, but I would cook dinner for them sometimes because my mom didn't have time to make dinner sometimes. She was working 2 jobs. So we were living, I remember we had a 2-bedroom apartment at this point. And I used to think like, oh my God, like one day I'm going to buy my house, a big house. I'm going to buy myself a big house and my parents are going to live next door to me. And you start, think that it's not just having a dream, you have to work for it because things are very expensive. So I remember I used to see people like, my dad had a really old car. I don't remember what it was, but it was just really old. And I used to see people driving like Mercedes Benz, and I used to think like, why can't my dad buy one of those?
Why?
But I didn't understand how
Yeah.
anything worked here in this country. So then you start realizing, okay, well, I need a credit, and then you need the money, obviously, right? So then I was like, I want that life. Like, I want to be able to buy myself anything I want and travel and help others and not worry about how I'm going to pay rent the next month. And so time comes around, I'm in high school and I was taking AP classes and I was just doing all of these things. And Miss Perna, I'm sure you know Miss Perna. Miss Perna and I sat down and she said, okay, sweetie, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go to college? She knew I wanted to go to college. I had that conversation with her. And I said, well, like, I don't know where I want to go, but I know I want to be a doctor. So I was looking at expensive schools because you think that, 17 years old, I want to go to an expensive university. And so I applied to a couple, got into all of them. And then when I remember I had 7 acceptance letters. So we sat down with Miss Perna and somebody else, another professor, another teacher of the high school. And he said to me, okay, look, this university, I think it was University of, I don't remember, but $60,000, right? And this one is 75 because it's a private school. And then he said to me, but you also have this one that's going to offer you a full ride. So he said, can your parents pay for it? And I said, no, they can't. Like, they were always very honest with me. We want you to go to college, but we can't afford it, so you have to work. So he said, let's do this. Before you put money down for any schools, let's send the ones that are offering you a full ride. Let's send them a letter and let's tell them I'll go to you, but you're going to pay for me the 4 years. So we did it. And then a week later, I got a letter. And I didn't want to open it because I was so scared. I was like, what if they said no? Like, what am I going to do? And then, so I get to high school and I went to his classroom and I said, hey, I got a letter. Can we open it together? And yeah, it said, we'll pay for the 4 years as long as you keep a 3.75 GPA or higher. And I was like, 4.0 in high school, I can do anything.
Yeah.
which I didn't know how hard it was actually going to be. Because you get to college, it's a whole different dynamic.
Right.
I didn't study in high school. I would get A's without studying. Like I would just read the notes the night before and I would get an A. So then I talked to my parents and I said, it's 6 hours away. But my dad was like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. We just want you to go to college and do something. So I remember the day comes back and they drop me off and my dad cried. I had never seen my dad cry before. He just cried and cried and cried. And I think he tells me now it was because he was very proud, but also because he was like, you're grown. And this little girl that I always protected, and because I wasn't allowed to go outside after 8 p.m. or I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend or I wasn't allowed to do anything, like the typical Mexican household.
Mm-hmm.
So then he realized like she's out of my hands. So I remember they dropped me off and it was going good. Freshman year, perfect, 4.0 GPA. I was in honors college, everything. Sophomore year comes around and I took my first bio class. I took a genetics class. I walk in there, I take a test. I got a 30%. So I'm crying, right? I'm in tears. I call Miss Perna and I was like, I'm never going to be a doctor. This is impossible. And she said, sweetie, it's okay. Like, it's okay to not get an A for once. It's okay. You're going to learn from this. So I went to my advisor and I said, I'm going to change my major to communications. Keep in mind, because I knew I was going to work for like Televisa or Univision or something and I was going to be an actress. But it was because I had never had a bad grade before. So in my head, I'm like, there's no way I can be a doctor now and I'm going to lose my scholarships. And whatever, my advisor sat down with me. He said, no, like, it's okay. Let's drop the class, which I didn't know that you could drop a class in college because no one tells you that at home. I was the first one my parents went to like elementary school and that was it. So that was like the first time that I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. So I dropped the class and they ended up getting, I think I got a 3.9 that semester. So then I was doing bio pre-med with the minor in chemistry. And obviously, super hard. I missed out on a lot of going out with my friends and coming home to like on the weekends and stuff like that. Cause I was 6 hours away. If I had an exam, there was no, I'm going to go home on the weekends. So the time comes to graduate and I think it was our junior year and COVID happened. And I was like, oh my God. The reason why I had gone to college so far was because my mom said, I want you to leave the house. If you stay home, you're not going to be able to do anything because you help me with the kids. You help me clean. You do this, you do that. No, like go, leave, go focus on yourself. Like I want you to, my mom always wanted to go to college. So I think she was like, I remember she told me, she's like, I want you to be selfish. Go do you. You have helped me. You raised your siblings, and obviously like not every female or every person has that kind of support at home, but I am super blessed and grateful that I did. And my mom was like, vete. So when I was getting ready to graduate undergrad, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. So you start thinking about MCATs, the medical school applications, everything. And then so I started applying to schools, right? And no, I'm just kidding. I couldn't take the MCATs because of COVID. So I was like, what am I gonna do? So what I did is I did some schools offer for medical students, they offer a 5-year program where the first year you do a master's degree, but they also help you prepare for the MCATs. And then the other 4 years you do medical school. So that's what I did. So the first year I did my master's and it was basically mostly online. And then I took the MCATs. I did really well on the MCATs. I did really well on my master's. So I started applying to med school. And the first letter that I got was from Stanford and they rejected me and I was crying so much and I was like, I know, like, yeah, like se me acabó la vida. Because you start thinking about that, you hear all these stories of people that they couldn't get into medical school or they just kept getting rejection letters and I just kept thinking like, I'm never going to do this, whatever. But I don't know. I think that that's one of the biggest things that I have to work on. Like just not doubting myself. Like sometimes I look back at how much I've done and I'm like, why am I still doubting myself after all this, But so I finally get an acceptance letter from Johns Hopkins and that's where I am.
Nice. Well,
And I'm the only Mexican in my class. So it hasn't been easy, Maria. It's been hard. It's been, I just in class because I'm surrounded by there's more Spanish speaking people, but there's not, when you're in a career where it's so it's like one against the other, like I want to be the top of the class, but I also want to be the top of the class, but I want to match into residency, but they also want to. No, like it almost feels like no one is your friend in there. And everyone's just so like against. So that was like the first year of medical school. I definitely felt like that. And then eventually you start creating connection. I think everyone realizes like, no, we're all struggling here. No one's sleeping. We're all running on 4 coffees in 3 months. Like you start realizing things like that. But when I started doing rotations at the hospital, I remember I had a patient and he said, "Where are you from? Where do you have an accent?" And it was the first time.
Accents.
Yeah, he said, "Why do you have an accent? You don't sound like you're from here." And I was like, and I didn't know how to react because I'm super light skinned. So no one has ever said that to me, right? Like I look like, everyone tells me, "You te miras como una gringuita." And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
wait till I
yeah.
speak. So I remember I walked out and I was with a doctor. He was from India, and I started crying. And I was like, he just asked me where I'm from, and he told me he doesn't want me to touch him because I'm not from here. And I'm crying, right? I'm in tears. And I remember the doctor said, "Sweetie, you should be proud of yourself." He said, you should have told him, if there's a reason why you're laying in bed and I'm on this side. He said, you're the one that is in school and you're the one that has all this knowledge to help somebody else. Don't ever let someone tell you that just because you're not from here, you're not worth anything. But I feel like because no one had ever said anything to me like that, I was like, oh my God. Like, I don't know. I think I had this, like, I was inside a bubble almost because I look so witty that in my head, I was like, that's never going to happen to me. Almost like but it humbled me a little.
What happened with
I was
the
like, oh.
patient? I mean, if you're talking to the Indian
But
doctor,
I
who's
told the doctor, I said, I'm not going back in there. I don't feel comfortable. He said, it's okay. You don't have to go back in there. I will go back in there. He said, you know what? I also don't look like him. And if he doesn't want either of us to take care of him, he's going to have to wait there till there's another physician available. So the doctor goes in there and he said, I want you to apologize to my student because what you said to her was very disrespectful. He didn't apologize. He didn't care. I remember I came home and I called my mom and I was crying and I was like, un señor me dijo esto. And then, but I think that that's one of the first times that I realized, okay, like I am in a field where people are going to be mean. And I am also in a field where it's very male dominated and where you walk in a room, everyone is say, "How are you, the nurse?" And I'm like, no, I'm not the nurse. I'm actually a medical student. So
and you're
you
young,
start,
and you're young.
and yeah, and I also, people think I'm way younger than what I actually am. So I also did struggle with that, with walking into a room and patients not being able to almost accept the fact that, no, I'm not a nurse. And I just had a patient 2 weeks ago call me the Spanish nurse. And I didn't say anything to him. I just walked away and then I went back in the room and I said, by the way, I am not a nurse. I said, I'm a medical student. He said, oh, it's because, he said, all the nurses I know in here are Mexican. So you do get a lot of that. And I just laughed and I said, no, but you're good to go home and have a good day. And I just walked away and I'm like, it's crazy, And I think that that's why it's so important for so many generations to just go to college, because there's a reason why people think that way. When you go into a hospital, no, it's as sad as it is, it's true. Most of the Latinas, most of the Spanish speakers are nurses. There's nothing wrong with nurses. Nurses do everything in the hospital. They run a hospital. But I think that it's so important for girls to just, if you want to be a doctor, yes, it is like 20 years of school, but we need more doctors, more Mexican, Spanish, more doctors that look different. I said, that's period. You have a lot of Asian doctors and Indian doctors, but there's not a lot of Mexican doctors.
Could change that, and this is where you
Yeah,
come
and
in.
then this is, and yeah, and like I always say, like when I've gone to the high school and I've gone to middle schools, and I always tell the girls, if you want to be a doctor, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. Like don't think about how many years you're gonna be in school, because la vida va a pasar whether you go to school or not. So go to school and be a
Education,
doctor. Yeah,
higher
and just
education,
break those
stereotypes,
stereotypes that people have of, oh, I thought you were the nurse, because all the Mexican girls that work here are nurses.
all the janitors,
Yeah,
or the.
yeah, and I always say, and I always tell Maria, one of the most rewarding things that I have gotten from this career is when I can go in a room and I can say, hola, y yo hablo español. And being able to tell the patients, yo te entiendo, y yo te escucho, y te pusiste vaporú, y yo también me he puesto vaporú. Y te tomaste un tequila con limón porque tenías tos. my dad does that too. You know, like being able to understand them, or them telling you, es que me duele la cabeza porque se me metió frío. You know, things like that. Things
You
that,
relate. You relate.
yeah,
Yeah.
I relate to them, and I just laugh, and I'm like, ay, sí, verdad, es que está haciendo mucho frío afuera. And they don't feel like anybody's judging them. They don't
Yeah.
feel, and they always tell me, I always tell my mom, I just had a patient, they came back from Mexico, and the lady brought mole from Mexico. And she dropped off mole at the hospital for me. You know,
Well, wait
I always
till
tell my
when they
mom,
start bringing their sons over instead of bowling. They'll be like, "I have a really wonderful son. I wanna." When they know that you're like a gem, that's one thing about culture. They're gonna start
yeah,
matchmaking you
no, I'm
because you're
engaged.
like, yeah, but they don't know that. They don't know that, right? They
No,
don't know
sometimes
that.
I'll tell them, like, no, es que yo tengo a alguien. They're like, pero es que está más guapo mi nieto.
Yeah, ves. I'm telling you, you're like
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and I just want to touch a little bit on what you just said because I'm like, wow, that's a lot, that you've been doing. But I have to credit your parents, and the reason I'm have to say that is because we talk about culture, right? And this is where we can change a lot of that thinking. When we
Mhm.
grow up, I'm not Mexican, I'm Salvadorian, but when you touched on that, the fact that your mom is like, I want you at a house, and your dad is like, I want you far away because I want you to be able to fend for yourself. I don't want you to be a housewife. I want you to be able to take care of yourself. Grew up on the opposite because in our culture, that's typically how
Yeah.
girls are kind of raised, right? They're raised to be the takers of the house, to take care of their
A
brothers, to
housewife.
take care of take care of the dads. And I grew up watching that. I grew up in relationships like that. And the fact that you had not just one parent, both your parents said, nope, go do it, figure it
Mhm.
out, we'll support you. That you have a really strong support system at home that started with them.
Uh-huh.
And so you saw no limits in the fact that you're like, okay, I came to this country. Yeah, once you come to this country, we go through a lot of that trying to fit in. But in less than a
Right.
year, you're like, you excel. You're like, okay, I got this. I got this in a bag, right?
Uh-huh.
And so now you're going into pursuing what you're really passionate about. How did you figure that a medical career was your calling? What led you
I
to
always
that?
wanted to be a doctor. Always. Ever since I was little, I used to operar los animales muertos outside my house. I sound crazy for doing that, but my
Practice, practice.
mom tells me all the time. I used to go outside and find a dead animal, and I used to tell my mom that I was gonna cure it because it was sick. And I used to love to lay my parents down and act like I was gonna cut them open because those are their doctors. So I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it sounds really like straightforward, like you just undergrad, master's, medical school, but no, it wasn't like that. And one of the things so I'm actually taking a year off right now, and I'm doing a lot of rotations and stuff because I can't figure out what I want to do, like what kind of doctor I want to be. I like surgery, and I'm in between plastic surgery and cardiothoracic surgery. So two different things, completely different things,
Yeah.
but I know I want to be in the ER, in the trauma, in the OR. I love that. That's where I feel the most happy, and I feel like myself when I'm there. Just you're so focused, and you're just in your own little world, and I love it, and that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I'm having a hard time just being able to really make a decision, and I need to make that because I need to apply for residency. Once I get into residency, there's no going back. I will have to take another whole year off, and I want to do that.
Yeah.
Um, I before I decided that I wanted to that this is really what I want. I used to work as an MA, as a medical assistant, and I'm not MA certified, but I spoke to the doctor that was running that practice, and I said, "Hey, I really want to go to medical school, but can I work here? I don't know. I didn't even know how to take blood pressure, Maria. I didn't know how to do anything." He said, "No, it's okay. I would teach you." Because he is a first generation too, and he said, "It's okay, sweetie. Like you're gonna learn with me." And I did it in Kenne. Kenne Square is such a Spanish speaking population that I just remember going in there to translate for him, and I used to think like one day I'm gonna be sitting there, and I'm gonna be able to tell the
Nice.
patient like yo soy la doctora, because even though I'm not a doctor yet,
Yeah.
it's hard for them to understand that you're not a doctor, but
Well,
you're
you're
seeing them as a
studying.
doctor already. Yeah.
Nurse
So
practitioner, like a nurse practitioner.
so it's hard for them to understand the difference between all of us. So to them, you're a doctor no matter what. To any
No,
Spanish speaking
no, not a nurse practitioner. Physician's assistant, right? It's a
physician,
PA, like a
yes.
PA,
So
because PA
yeah,
could
like a
be
PA.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so I would go in there and I would say, hey, so to them, you're a doctor no matter what. But I remember seeing the doctor and thinking, like, I want to be that. Like, I don't wanna go in a room and be like, "Oh, the doctor will be reading." Like, I wanna walk in and I'm like, "Hola," like, in Spanish and English, I'm Doctor Castañeda. Or just like, I remember thinking about it and I used to cry and I'm like, "I just wanna do that." Like, it makes me wanna cry because I used to think, like, I wanna be able to walk in a room and introduce myself like that. Just like, "Hola, soy la doctora Castañeda," and the way that the patient's eyes light up, and even when they're not Spanish speaking, there's always like, "Oh my god, sweetie, you look so young, and you're doing this, it's amazing." And so I started with SNMA and I loved it. I loved it, Maria. I used to look forward to going to work and helping patients. And I remember he used to let me clean after he did any type of suturing. He used to let me take the sutures off or staples out. And one day he's like, "You want to learn how to suture?" And I was like, "Yeah, can you teach me?" And he was like, "Okay, come in here." So the patient was super nice. She was an elder person, and she said, "No, it's okay, sweetie. I was a retired doctor. You can practice on me." And it took me like 10 minutes to get 2 sutures in, but I did it. And I was like, "Oh my God." Like, I just going home and telling my parents excited me so much. And just, I remember I took an anatomy class in undergrad and I loved it. I loved anatomy. It was so hard, but I loved being able to understand not only what body parts we have, but what each of them do and how each of them connect. And if you break one bone, what's going to happen to the bone next to it? Or what's if you hit a leg, what's gonna happen to the nerve? What's gonna happen to just that used to fascinate me. So I was like, yeah, like this is it. Like there's no going back from here. So I just remember I was like, I'm gonna be a doctor one day and there's no going back from this. I'm not changing my mind ever. And now that I'm telling you, sometimes I'm working overnights or I'm on call or anything because the doctors, even though since I'm taking a year off, I think they take a little bit of advantage of me. So they'll call me at like 3 p.m. like, "Hey, we have a surgery at 4 p.m. We want you to shadow the surgery. We need you here in 15 minutes." So I'm like taking a quick bath, putting my hair up in a bun, running there. But I love it. I love it. And it's so rewarding. And now that I was telling Maria the other day, like I was like, "You know what, friend?" Because I said to her, I was like, it's think about the life that our kids are gonna have. Right? Like I want my kids
Mhm.
to be able to when they check, like, you know how they ask you like your parents'
Yeah.
education, like I want to be like, "Oh, doctor or higher." Like
PhD.
that's yeah, and like with the Spanish last name, like I want my kids to understand that that's a flex.
Mhm.
As someone
Mhm.
that comes from a Spanish last name, being
Humble
able to be like,
background.
"No, my mom is a doctor, and my mom did this, and my mom did that," and then being able to teach other generations that yes, it's gonna be twice as hard,
Yeah.
but you can do it.
Yeah.
I've gone to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't remember. I went to Cannon Middle School and one of the teachers there, I don't know how she got my phone number. Someone must have given it. I don't remember. But when she texted me to say, "I would love for you." They do this thing. It's called Café en Familias on Thursdays, where they bring a lot of the Spanish speaking parents. And I was talking to them, and I remember um a dad, a Venezuelan, that said, "Mi hija no va a ir a la universidad porque mi hija no se va a ir de la casa lejos." Porque basically he was just saying like if she leaves the house, she's gonna go get pregnant. And I remember looking at him and I waited, till I was done speaking. I went privately and talked to him and I said, "No, you are the reason. Like if your daughter ever leaves the house, let her leave the house because she's gonna do something for herself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because she's gonna chase her dreams, not because she's going with a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Don't push her to that limit."
Yeah.
Because that's why a lot of girls do leave the house, because they live in such a toxic environment that
Yeah.
they leave. But what happens? They end up leaving to a more toxic environment.
Mhm.
So I remember
Mhm.
talking to him and I said, just please let her leave. So I said to him, I said, I went 6 hours away and I didn't get pregnant. And I didn't do did I make not the best decisions? Sometimes, of course, I did. Like
Part
any
of
other
growth.
19, 20-year-old, because
Yeah.
I had to learn from my mistakes. But I did it. So then when you're in a hospital and you get Spanish speaking patients and you talk to them about what you've done and they have younger daughters, it's almost also like a teaching lesson for them. Like if I'm sitting in this chair right now with scrubs on and speaking to you in Spanish, so can your daughter
Yeah.
and let her. And I always tell my brother has a daughter now, she's 1. And I always tell him, and the day that Eliana grows up, if I hear you telling her, "No, I'm going to smack you," he just laughs. He's like, "Alejandra, you're crazy." And I'm like, "No, like, I want you to teach this little girl that she can do anything in life. Anything. It doesn't matter what you want to do, but you can do it."
Yeah. That's awesome, and that's a great message that you're sharing also with your siblings because they also are seeing you do it. What about your other siblings? Are they pursuing their own dreams? What are they doing?
The one that's right next to me, he didn't want to go to college. He was like, I'm not going to college. And my parents were always very understanding of that too. I remember my mom had a little of a hard time with that first. But my dad and her, I remember they sat down one day and they were like, you know what? We're not going to have four doctors. No, like, no. And they talked to my brother and they said, it's okay. Just please don't do anything bad. Like if you don't want to go, okay, first they said, if you don't want to go to college, then we pay bills in this house. So
Get a
once you
job.
graduate high school, go get a job and you're going to pay bills because you want to know what life is like. Give it a try. And he is a truck driver. He got his CDL and has 3 kids now. They just got married. And he has a good home. He has a happy home and stuff, but sometimes I talk to him and he calls me bro. He's like, "Bro, I should have gone to college."
He
And I'm
still
like, "I
can.
told you."
He still can.
Yeah,
It's
and
never too
then
late.
the other one, he is in school. He's doing engineering, the 18-year-old. And the 10-year-old, one day
Still
he
young.
wants to be a doctor, the other day he wants to be a vet, the other one he wants to be a truck driver. He's figuring it out.
He'll figure it
But
out.
but he loves when I call him and I tell him what I did. And I always tell my mom, like, oh, Sebastian makes me cry because he's always like, Ale, and what did you do today? Did you do anything crazy? He always says, did you do anything crazy? And I'm like, yeah, baby, like there was an open fracture, which means that the bone is sticking out of the body and you have to. And I tell him everything. He's like, oh my God, Ale, that's so cool. And what did you do? And he always asks me what the patient's name is. And what was the patient's name?
Yeah, so
And
cute.
I'm always like, I can't tell you that because that's violating the patient's right. Yeah, but I'm your brother. He always wants to know everything, so, but I think that it's almost, I always tell my mom, like, I love how much he looks up to me.
Yeah. Well, you're like a second mom, right? Because you're like
Yeah.
pretty much raised him.
Yeah, I raised him. So he always tells me, and I don't live at home anymore. I live with my fiance, but when I lived at home still, he used to sit with me. And I remember I used to tell him, like, Sebas, no, don't look at this. Because it used to be like open, like just open body parts, bloody and stuff. Because I was doing reports or something, and he used to love it. He used to be like, and what bone is that? And Ale, and he used to sit there with me, and I was taking a microbiology class, and it's a lot of microbes, and he used to tell me, and what does that do to the body? And so I think he loves science too. So I hope he goes into a
He
science
might
field.
be, yeah, because you have to have the stomach, not only the heart. Because you can have the heart want to be a doctor, but you hate
Yeah.
seeing blood. You know what I mean? Right? So you have to have.
Everyone always asks me that.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
time, Maria.
Yeah. I have family members. My husband works in a hospital. He manages a hospital. One
Okay.
of my kids wants to study. She's like cute. She used to like dissecting animals. She used to like my daughter's age. She's like my medical. She takes after her dad. She likes to, and then the kids will, when she was in high school, will look at her and the teacher because she was never grossed out. She was like little dancing with the little dissecting animals. I'm not like that. Don't talk to me. I am more in business. My field is more HR, like people piece. And when my husband starts telling me, I'm like, wrong person
over
to
there.
talk to, go talk to your child. I'm not, you know what I mean? I look away when they're trying to draw blood out of me because I don't like, you know
You
what I
don't
mean?
like it?
No, the first time I got blood out, I remember donating blood, I almost fainted. So when they draw my blood, I look away, I start singing. I don't want to
No,
see it.
I look away because I don't. I always say this, and my mom thinks it's so funny. I don't like needles on myself. Get away with me. Flu vaccine, I drag it. I always have to get them because I work in a hospital.
Right.
But I know I will wait till the last day before I go get it because I
So
hate
for
needles on
you,
myself.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
for
you,
me,
but for
I
everybody
don't like
else,
it. But
yeah.
when another patient, like sometimes male patients, right? It's always the male patients. Passing out on you. You're injecting lidocaine to numb them up just before you suture an incision, and they're crying in there, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, let me stop because if that was me, I would be crying too. But I love it, and I think that's why I know I want to do surgery because I love the bloody.
Right.
I don't like family doctors, and I get bored of the same routine every day. I like the craziness, the running around, that you never know what's gonna go into
Yeah.
that door, and
You
it's
don't like getting bored. You know what? I have to say that when you have someone that likes the passion, that's what you're doing, is how they light up. You light up talking about what you do.
oh, thank you.
You know what I mean? Which that tells you you're in the right field. When you
Mhm.
love what you do, then we know at the other end, us as patients get a better care because you have a doctor that actually cares rather than seeing, I'm like, I'm a doctor just here for the money. You actually are caring for your
Mhm.
patients, which I have to go back to one of the things that you mentioned. It's also part of like what you share with me as your bio is you love working with Latinos in the community because you kind of relate to them and kind of also help break some of that stress, that fear that comes with being no one I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, I like going to the hospital." Nobody says that
No,
ever.
nobody likes it.
Nobody ever says that ever, right? And when they go to the hospital, they don't have anybody they can relate to because, no one can talk their language or no one can give them the comfort, the fact that you're there. And that's why
Uh-huh.
one of the things that you share that you like working with them because you make things put more of an ease for them to kind of feel comfortable and trust
Yeah.
and which I think this is great. I think that's kind of like serving your community, right? Which what you do. So that's a great thing that you're doing. What else do you do community service wise?
So I just put in a request. Like I don't have enough on my plate, right? There is a place in like 20 minutes from here where they help Latinos and just anyone that doesn't have a medical insurance provide like very almost like basic like a
Dental
family
health.
doctor care for them
Yeah.
without running them an expensive crazy bill, right? So I put in a request for that.
Oh, it's like
I'm gonna be
clínicas
honest with you.
familiar, like clínicas
Yeah, it's
familiar
like
or something like
yes,
that.
but they do it outside.
Oh,
You
okay.
It's not like an actual clinic, and they do very like a quick exam, and if you needed like an MRI or CAT scan or anything, they almost help you. There's people helping them apply for like medical insurance and stuff like that, but they always need medical students to get a very like a physical or a diagnosis, things like that. So I'm applying for that. I was telling my mom, I was like, I know, like I want to do that so bad. She's like, I love doing that. Some of the doctors that I work with, they love giving back to their community. So one Saturday of every month, we go around with the homeless and we do their vitals. We check their sugar levels. We do their blood pressure. We do all of those things. And the first time that I went, I remember I was so scared. But then you realize, and I remember the doctor said to me, he said, before you're a doctor, you're also a human. So I don't want to ever hear I'm scared because they're just as human as you are. And there's
Great.
nothing wrong with not showering, and there's nothing wrong with not having basic needs. So you're gonna go in there. Of course, you have to put your gloves on, right? Because sometimes they're bleeding or anything. But
Yeah.
he said they're just as human as you are. So I don't want to hear I'm scared, and I don't want to hear they smell bad, and I don't want to hear any of that.
A
So I
great
do that
great
every other
mentor.
side.
Whoever's telling you that's a
Yeah.
great mentor.
Yeah, and I do that one Saturday of the month. I did a lot more community service when I was in undergrad and in high school because I had more time. And right now I don't have as much time. I do help out when Miss Perna she'll reach out to me over here and there to go talk to the hermanitas.
Yeah.
And I go talk to them. I do a lot of that. And there's a summer program. It's called Migrant Summer Program. And I was part of that when I got here to the US. So I do that in the summers. I go talk to the students and kind of just give them motivation to go to college and the parents and stuff like that. And every here and there, I'll get some phone calls from Miss Perna, like, hey, sweetie, do you mind calling this parent? They don't want their kid to go to college.
Yeah.
So it might not be like some people might not think it's like a community service because I'm not going out and doing it, but it's a way of helping my community, and letting parents know that, hey, like someone else did it, your daughter can do it too, or your son, because it's not always females. I did a lot. I did a lot of community service in high school. Maria and I were everywhere.
Well, look where you're at. Look
Maria
where you're at right now. We know one thing as what you're doing to mentor the next generation. As I
Yeah, so
mentioned,
I try to do things like that because
yeah.
I don't have the time, to do 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day. It would be impossible for me to do that right now. But I do try to give back in the ways that I can. And I would love to one day, when I'm financially stable, I
We'll
would
be there.
love to open up some kind of like a free mentoring place for Latinas, for younger girls that want to go to college, and just have people there helping them teach them how to apply to college, how to get scholarships, and just do all of those things. And I know there is stuff like that out there, but or just like free just any kind of free help that they need. And
We
I
have
always
that
tell my
right
mom
now,
like
Alejandra. We have that with Mana. So,
yeah, well, I
you're
did
talking.
Mana, I think my freshman year of college only, not
Okay.
college, high school. And then I did it the first year, and then I never went back to it. I don't remember why I never went back to it, I'm going to be honest with you. Pero Maria siempre iba.
She is
Did.
an emeritus.
She kept going, yeah.
So you're talking about creating that, and I'm my wheels are spinning because I am passionate about the program, the things that we're doing as an organization. I literally just got sworn in yesterday for my second term in national,
I
and
love this for
so
you.
Yeah, and so I created this platform. The Inner Niña was created because I got hermanas that encouraged me to do it because I have they're always telling me you're so passionate, you're energetic, and I'm like I'm around all these women. I'm bouncing out of their energy, right? And I'm like how can I do this? Maria, my tocaya could tell you, and we get together. It's like okay, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing you, and I can't help to think I'm like a virtual hour with you and the hermanitas from all our different chapters who are in our senior year in high school trying to figure out what they need to do and how to do it and you can tell them your story and so they don't get discouraged and even if we don't have the perfect grade on the first exam because you're right high school and college is completely different when you're in college you're an
Mm-hmm.
adult you don't have anybody reminding you hey did you do your homework did you turn in your homework did
Did
you
you study?
study
Yeah.
no you are an adult so you need to create those
Uh-huh.
great habits and realistically the exams are a little different because if you didn't read any you read your notes but you don't because you're smart but college is supposed to challenge you so they're going to challenge you depending on career and when I talked to some of my hermanas more of in our age group we're like the younger girls are in junior high and high school need someone more in their age group for them to relate okay because sometimes I tell
Uh-huh.
them joking around we're talking they're like está bien no sabe nada you know
Well, because they
we don't know
probably look at
anything.
it as a mom, and
Yeah,
who wants to listen to their
yeah,
mom when you're in high
yeah.
school?
But I know we have a group like almost right under us that does listen. So we need the group under us to work with the ones under them, right? Because this is how we
Uh-huh.
bring elevate. We continue elevating. So I'm hearing you talk right now, and I'm like, I'm thinking I need to put her in contact with our
Yeah, of
Hermanitas
course.
program and do a virtual workshop and say, hey, make sure you are reaching out to we have in every chapter we have a group, a committee that helps, whether it's for FAFSA or what the college, the expectation, where to go to grants all that, but kind of re-encourage, reinforce that process. And they're hearing it directly from someone who is in the process of becoming a full doctor, right? So, because you're about to do your residency pretty soon, right now
Mhm.
you're exploring other things, but you've done like 95% bulk of
Yeah.
the work already, right? You're almost at the finish line. And the girls that are about to start that process, they need to hear from someone like you to say, hey, it's gonna be rewarding. Gonna not gonna be easy, but it's gonna be rewarding. And
Mhm.
this is who you can go for help. And because a lot of things we don't like, and it's no fault at all of us. Right? We have humbling upbringings, like you mentioned, your parents they didn't know how to help you because they only went to elementary, but they encourage you to be resourceful.
To do
They
it,
encourage
yeah.
you to do it. And just imagine if you didn't have that kind of support system at home. And a lot of our
I don't think
girls,
I would have done it. Yeah.
yeah, you know, a lot of our girls maybe don't have that support at home either. I was talking
Mhm.
to one of the hermanas in the program, which she was saying that she has to go, and she's a volunteer because she says, I have to go door knocking because the parents don't want the hermanitas to participate in culture events because no, I need her here to clean the house. No, I need her here to do chores. And they're like, we need to bring them out so we can take them to museum, take them to these events because they need to be introduced to cultures around, whether it's the Mexican culture. We're having a huge mariachi festival in part in San Diego, right? And I'm
I
helping
love
promote
that.
it. And they're bringing mariachis from LA, and this is the San Diego. San Diego it's like 2 hours away from LA. And so the hermana is telling the parents of the hermanitas for them to participate. Yeah, and that generation, a part of generation is not into the culture, but our programs we want to introduce the girls to this culture because we want them to have pride in their culture.
Yes.
Is like, I was talking to one a couple of days ago. She's one of our youngest hermanitas, and she's very active. They're doing demonstrations and the ice locations, and they're wearing braids, trenzas, as a representation of our heritage.
Yeah.
And then they're a group of Mexican young girls doing protests with braids, but
I
they're
love
learning
that.
to embrace their culture, even
Their
though there might
culture.
be two generations here in the United States. They're not like you and I are born in our other country,
Mhm.
but they're getting introduced to make sure they embrace, they know their culture, and to be proud of their culture, which which is important, right? And that's what this Latina podcast is to that. It's like let's highlight the
Yeah.
fact that we're Latina, that we're bilingual, we're first generations,
Big on bilingual.
big,
Yeah.
yeah, big on that. And it's okay to
And
have an accent. It's okay to have an accent,
Yeah.
And
And
so,
I think that a lot of these younger generations, like you said, maybe second or third generation, they don't even speak Spanish. And it's almost sad, Maria. It's almost sad because you start to lose that,
yeah,
and then, and I always think like, oh my God, like I don't ever want my kids to be like that.
yeah,
No, like I want my kids to speak Spanish and I want my kids to be able to help other people. Because there's always, no matter how many years go by, there's always going to be someone que no habla inglés.
yeah,
And I want my kids to be able to be those, not just my kids, like anyone, my nephews, my nieces, to jump in and be like, I can help you
yeah,
because I can translate for you. And I always think of my parents, right? Like my parents don't speak English. So I always think of them like when I see kids that don't want to translate for their parents, because I do see it all the time at the hospital. The kids are like, I don't know what she's saying. It makes me so mad, Maria. I'm like, oh, that
I can
Mexican. And he's
totally
like,
relate. I can totally relate with that because I have siblings. I have half siblings, and my kids are the only ones that are fully bilingual. And I was very intentional because you can get away because you're like lighter complexion. Look at me walk in the room. It's a given, right? It's a given. And my kids look like me, so I can't give them a name that doesn't relate to how they look. So they have a bilingual full name, and then they have two names, you know. And so, and I made a point for them to speak both. Now, I was talking to my son the other day, and he's like, we lived in Texas for a while because my husband was stationed there. And he's like, I wish you didn't have taken me there because I lost my Spanish. And I'm like, that was on you, dude. I taught you bilingual, but the minute you were in that preschool, you're like, I don't want to speak Spanish because my friends don't speak Spanish. And I'm like, it was only like for a year and a half, right? And then when he came back pochito because he picked up really well the English but then he
yeah.
wanted to use Spanish. And we came back, his grandma only speaks Spanish. So now he speaks Spanish. He's taking Spanish in high school, in college. He's already an adult. But he was telling me just that this week. And I'm like, you actually are bilingual, but pochito, right? Because
Mhm.
he wished he could speak with no accent. But he can have a conversation. Both my kids can have a conversation. Yet I have nieces and nephews from my siblings who can't have a conversation, and they have very Americanized names, and so it's very deceiving because people will look at them and try talking to them in Spanish. I'm like, oh, I don't understand, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you look like
Yeah.
this, you know what I mean? So it's important to conserve that. And my kids always said, is like, when and if we have kids, they're gonna be bilingual. They need to learn how to dance.
And
so
that's beautiful. Yeah. Definitely
so
the dancing.
that, because we love
Yeah.
music, right? But you have to kind of, because if not, you lose the traditions. You lose that, and it's important for us to continue that because there's so much culture, so much history. And another thing that when you mentioned you're engaged, so what would happen when you get married? I don't know. And
Not
this is
changing my
like,
last name. No, we had that conversation since
I'm
we were
like, okay,
dating, Maria.
I didn't know where to ask that question because I have a
Everyone asks
very
me that.
I have a very forward thinker kids, and then one of them told me, it's like, I'm not gonna change my last name because I've earned this degree. I've earned
That's
this
what I said to
degree.
him.
And I'm like, I did not teach you that. I'm like, but I love it. I get it, right? But I'm
Yeah,
like,
no,
I was just
I told him
curious
that.
because I'm like, because your parents would be like, we have a Castaneda, a doctor in the family, but if you're married, do you lose it? You know what I mean? I'm like, okay.
No, ever since we were dating, we had that conversation. I remember I said he's Mexican too, and I said to him,
Okay.
I was like, "Y es que me voy a cambiar el apellido, eh?" And he started laughing. Yeah, say he knows it. And I was telling him that because sometimes you no te vas a poner mi apellido, and I'm like, are you going to college? Are you pulling all nighters? Absolutely
Yeah.
not. And your dad didn't pay for college. Your dad didn't. I mean, your dad didn't send me grocery monies when I was in college, so absolutely not. So I'm like, boy, he was the last. I'm like, no, you go to college and become a doctor if you want your last name on a degree. No, no, no. I always tell my parents that like those last names are very deserving of having doctor in front of them, and it's going to be for
Yeah.
them.
I love it. I love it. I wasn't know how to ask that question because,
No, I
my,
love that you asked that because so many people ask me that, even patients.
yeah,
Because sometimes I wear my ring at work, and I take my gloves out, and they see, and they're like, "Oh, you're engaged, and are you changing your last name?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not. I'm not changing my last name." And good for anyone that does him. But no, 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 because I think that it would I almost feel like I would disrespect my dad if I do that.
Yeah. And then it has to do a lot with the culture too, because I know that growing up, the women that got married were, I'm from El Salvador, so they will add they, like I am Benitez, right? That's my married name. So if I would have been married in my country, I would have been Maria de Benitez. Like
De Benitez.
I belong to Benitez.
To
Like I
him. Yeah.
belong. I'm like, I'm not a furniture. And
Yeah, no.
so when I got married, I didn't want to change my name. And this is where, like, growing up, because a lot of my uncles were machistas, right? And I said, look, I'm not interested in changing my last name because I've had a
They're probably
political
like,
science. He's Salvadorian, but he's very, very, he's a forward thinker. But I remember taking, when I was in college, and I learned this from my political science teacher who was like a very, he has presence. He would show up with his turtlenecks, a big medallion. You could tell he was from the hippie era. And I learned from him. And I was taking Chicano studies, and even though I'm not Chicana, right? Because I'm like, I want to learn more about the culture.
yeah, of course.
So this political science teacher told me, she's like, made a comment one day to all the class. He's like, my wife doesn't have my last name. And he's like, you know how slaves got their last name? She's like, the owners gave them the last name because that was their property. He's like, my wife is not my
Yeah.
property. My wife is the partner. And I was like, mind blown. Because
Yeah.
all my life
mom
I
didn't
was
change
like,
her last name.
but that's not the norm, right?
No, and I always ask her why, and she's like, she always tells me, ni que tu papá fuera mi dueño. You
That's
know, we're
not,
talking
but see,
about
that's not the norm.
26 years.
No, I have a sister. I have two sisters. I didn't grow up with one, but I grew up with another one. When she got married, she changed her name to De and his last name. I'm like, you're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
De?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
De? I'm like, and so this is where her and I were like night and day, right? And so
I always tell my fiance, I'm like, a ver tú, ponte Castañeda.
yeah. Well, I
You do it.
mentioned
I'm
that
not doing it.
I told my husband, I said, I will change my name if you add my last name and hyphenate it. And we both have. He's like, okay. And because he said okay, I'm like, all right, he's not that type. I'll go
Yeah.
ahead and concede. I'm like, all right, because I want my kids to have the last name. But if he would have demanded, I'm like, oh, go pound sand. I'm not gonna do it, But he was willing to add my last name, hyphenate it with him, and that's how he's like.
Yeah.
He's completely the opposite of the typical that I grew up with. And
Yeah.
so now that my daughter, and I didn't tell her to do that. She's like, oh, when I do this, I won't, because I'm the one that studied. I'm the one that stayed up late. And I'm like, and my
Good
husband's
for
like,
her.
oh,
Yeah, she's right.
that's your daughter. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I'm like,
That's probably how my dad feels.
yeah, but it's great. I'm like, and I was like, okay, let me ask her, because I'm like, yeah, I don't want the fiance to come and hunt me down and
No,
blame
he
me
knows.
for.
We had this conversation. I think we weren't even engaged yet. And I don't know how it came up one day in the conversation. You start talking about like, un día nos vamos a casar and we're
Yeah.
gonna do this. And then I remember he asked me, he's like, oh, like, would you ever change your last name? And I looked at him, I was like, no. And I probably made a face because I am the queen of making faces. And he always tells me, she's like, Alejandra, she would have hit me like that. She was like, Alejandra, tu cara.
You're like one of
And I'll
those
be like,
memes. Have you seen those memes?
Yeah,
Have you
like,
seen
one
those
thing
memes?
about memes, you're gonna see it in my face.
No
But yeah,
poker
what is it?
face.
Yeah,
No
so I
poker face.
remember, well, I had to learn that, right? At the hospital, you have to, because otherwise, that it would be over for me.
Yeah.
But I remember I told him, I was like, no. He's like, why do you make that face? I was like, because I'm not doing that. He's like, okay, don't get mad. I'm just asking.
That's
I was like,
great.
no, you better not start. Like, boy, no. I told him, I was like, I will break up with you before I change my last name.
Okay, well, he knows
No.
better. He knows
Yeah,
better.
I love him so much.
Well, I'm glad. Hey, you know what?
I
I'm
didn't even like
glad.
his last name.
I'm glad that you said that from day one. So he knows what to expect, not to expect.
What to expect, yeah.
So what are you working on right now besides trying
well,
to figure out?
I go to the gym. My fiance and I just opened a Mexican restaurant in
Nice.
November. So we're on Saturdays. I go on Saturdays that I'm not at the hospital. I go there and I help him because the girl that works Monday through Friday, she has the weekend off to be with her kids. So I go on Saturdays and I help them, and trying to learn how to manage my time better and find time for me, for my parents, for my fiance, for my friends. I haven't seen Maria. We text every day and we send audios, like 5-minute long audios all the time, but trying to find time to do that. The one thing that I haven't stopped doing and I won't stop doing is going to the gym, because you need something. You need something that's just gonna free your mind from all the
Release.
stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're in a hospital all day hearing people complain, and it's just all complain. You need to do something that's gonna make you happy.
Yeah.
So the gym, my nephews, my nephews 2, my niece is 1. So, and then they have a baby, a 3-month-old. So
Wow.
I love going over there and spending time with them and being tia and playing with them and buying stuff, unnecessary stuff for them that my brother's like, stop buying them stuff. And I'm like, that's my job. Just trying to find, I think just that, like enjoying my family as much as I can. I realize sometimes a little hard to realize and accept, but my parents are getting older. Spending time with them, taking them out to do things that they've never done before. But it's so new to them. Like,
Yeah.
even something as normal for like going out and getting ramen, right? Like my dad is like, kiss ramen. So we took him out
Noodles.
for ramen for the first time. Yeah, like, but things like that,
Sopa.
things that they would never go out their way to do.
Yeah.
And or taking like my mom, like I remember like growing up, I would wonder like why wouldn't get her nails done, right? It was because she didn't have the money. Taking her out to get her nails and just
Mani
trying to
pedi.
enjoy my parents, my family as
Sweet.
much as I can, because as much as I love the career that I'm doing, I also have to remind myself sometimes that I also have a family
Yeah.
and I also need to like distract myself and do more stuff other than just the hospital, the hospital, the hospital.
Yes. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know
but
when you have between work, school, spending family time, and working a second job with the Mexican business. Girl, I don't know. I don't know when you have the time, but that just kind of says the message. If you set your mind, you can do anything you want to do. One of the many questions asked our guests is, I can tell what motivates you with your family, but what else motivates you?
I think having more than what I had. Not like growing up, being able to just do everything that I want. I know someone's gonna be like money, but like money definitely. Because I wanna be able to be like I wanna travel, and I wanna
Mm-hmm.
do all of those things. So money, my family, and helping others, Maria. I think you've noticed by now that I love the
Yeah.
Spanish community, and that is such a big motivation for me to be able to. I want to be to the point where I can make decisions and
Mm-hmm.
make the calls. Because when you're a
Yeah.
doctor, you make the call.
Yeah.
So I want to be there. Like I want to be able to like, no, I'm seeing this patient. I don't care if they don't have medical insurance. I will see the patient and I
Okay.
will help the patient and I will give them, because doctors do that. At
Mm-hmm.
least with the doctors that I work with, they don't like the ones that really like to help patients. There's this doctor that I work with over the weekend, and he said a Mexican guy came in with a fracture. It has been snowing a lot, so he fell on the ice and he had a humeral fracture. And he said it's okay. He said, you know what, we're gonna do surgery on him. We'll deal with the bill later. And he didn't have medical insurance, So then I talked to the doctor and I said, because the patient eventually called the office, I guess, and one of the girls from the billing department emailed me. He said, hey, I know you were with Dr. blah 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 on this weekend. Do you mind asking him about this? Because there's no insurance, there's nothing linked to that account. We need to charge someone. So I emailed the doctor and he emailed back. He said, let her know, I'll call her back. So they talked, and then I saw him Tuesday, and I said, whatever happened? He said, I ate the cost. He paid for it. And I said, you did why? He said, I ate it. Like he said, I paid for it. And I was like, oh my God. And he said to me, he said, what I paid for that, I make in a week. I
That's
have
very
no
big.
problem.
That's a very big
Yeah.
thing.
And he said to me, he's young. He has kids, the patient. He said he needs to go back to work. And as a dad and as a parent, he said, I can't tell someone no, knowing that their kids are going to pay the price for that.
It seems to me you
So
are surrounded with great, doctors that are also showing you, you could be a doctor with heart. You can, yeah, yeah, yeah.
like me tomé un ajo con limón.
Talk about vapor rub. Before I started recording, I put vapor rub on my nose because the allergies from my fur baby.
Because
So
you're so stuffy,
I'm like,
yeah.
I have a bottle of vapor rub in my nightstand.
Well,
I'm only like,
even though I'm in medical school, I swear by Vaporub. Échate Vaporub.
yeah, what I mean? That's a home remedy. I think every Latino home, many cultures too believe in vapor
Yeah.
rub. So
You
that's a
have Vaporub
healing.
at home.
Oh, I think in every room there's a little thing
Yeah.
of vapor rub, so it's all good. So we
Oh,
talk
no.
about, what you're working on right now, your residency. If you had some words of wisdom, what kind of words of wisdom would you share? You mentioned you still want to create that mentorship with hermanitas. What kind of wisdom words would you share with them?
I would say when someone tells you no,
Mm-hmm.
you won't do it, let that be your motivation. And know that you can do anything. anything you say your mind to. You know that the sky is the limit,
Yeah.
Maria.
Yeah.
You can do anything. Anything you say your mind to, you can do it. And if someone else did it, so can you.
Amen. Amen. I love that. I love that. So, on a last question, because this Inner Niña podcast has to do with healing. I kind of share with you, it's created as a safe place for us to come together and share our stories, and the stories need to be told, right? Part of us as well, depending on the generations, because I'm interviewing girls from your age to my age and every in between, is we all have our inner niña that started a journey that may be breaking generational cycles, right? So we have still talk to our inner niña. If you had a chance to talk to that inner niña, your little Ale, what would you tell her?
Oh my God. This makes me emotional. Oh my God.
Let it
Not me, I'm
out.
about to
Let
cry.
it let it out. Let it out.
We're gonna end up crying in here.
Hey, you know what? It's a safe space. We're here. We're healing together.
And we're gonna do it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know that to not be scared. Oh
Yes.
my God, I'm gonna cry.
Let it out.
Because like I said, like if I think back of where I started and when I got here, and then if someone had told me right there and there, you're gonna be a doctor one day, I would have been like, no, there's just no way. So I would just say that, like, don't be scared, because yes, things happen and we all make mistakes and not everyone's nice and not everyone is good, but you're gonna do it. You're gonna do
Give
it,
up.
and yeah, and you're gonna be a doctor one day. So sometimes I do think, I'm like, wow, like I wish I could hug myself,
You are?
from when I was little, and just tell her, like, it's okay, like
Yeah.
you're gonna be okay
Yeah.
and you're gonna do it, and you're gonna be the doctor one day.
I'm
I'm so
loving it.
chillona.
No, you know what? It's okay though. You won't believe it. If you go sit and look at some of these episodes, there's always a tearjerker in every episode because it's part of our journey. We wouldn't be where we are, regardless of whether you're in your 40s, your 50s, without having to acknowledge that that little girl started a journey. Whether some hardship that we went through in that process, whether it's generational cycles that we're trying to break, because we want to create a better space for our next generation, our future daughters, right? We still harvest something in there that continues to help us push forward. And that little girl that was excited, couldn't wait to come to the USA, and then once she got here, she got a shock. She's like,
Yeah.
fortunately, your dad kind of gave you a little bit of an out, right? And I'm glad that he can give you an out right away. He give you a year to process and give it a try.
Yeah.
And in
I
that
think he
year,
knew.
yeah, but
Yeah.
in that year, not only did you knocked it out of the park, you like ran with it and you got the best grades. You're like, yeah, I'm not going back. I kind of like it, right? It's gonna be tough. It's not always gonna be easy, but you have to keep going. The reward is knowing that you're gonna be the first doctor in your family. Your parents, I don't know, but awesome. I know the best thing we
Yeah.
could do is like, yeah, I'm sure they're probably pulling out the picture and they're, here, see my daughter.
My mom is always, because it's just small community and people know each other. Her friends sometimes like, oh, mira, tu hija en el hospital, o tu hija me atendió. Oh my goodness. It's like her most proud moment. Like, me llamó mi amiga que tú la atendiste en el hospital, mija. Or my dad
Loving it.
too. Yeah, my dad is like, my dad always tells everyone, mi hija va a ser doctora. He always says mi hija es doctora, and I'm like, todavía no soy doctora.
But you know what?
But,
In a
to
way,
him,
you're like at the finish line because you
yeah.
already had the education. They can't take that away from you.
Uh-huh.
You're like in between without having a PA degree, right? Physician assistant. You're doing PA and doctor work already without the final title.
The final, yeah.
You're already doing it. So own it, take it, and relish because you got there. And look how young you are. Congratulations.
Thank you,
They're
Maria, and
doing.
thank you for giving me this space.
You know what? I'm just like I came in. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what to ask her because I don't know. I knew a little bit because Maria told me, I have a friend you need to. I'm like, bring her. I want to hear her stories. And I've
Yeah.
been mesmerized just listening to you and the way that
Thank
you
you.
light up, Ale, like the way you light up and you're like, oh my God, I want to be able to duplicate that. And if you can share your stories with like the young girls are coming in so they can see, wow, she's inspiring. She's able to do
Uh-huh.
that. And, it wasn't easy. It was hard work. But the rewards are going to be the fact that at the end of the day, you are going to be a doctor, the first in your family, regardless of the challenges, right? And so you already broke a lot of cycles. You broke a
Cycles.
lot of barriers, and you make your family proud. So
Thank
I don't know
you.
you. I just met you. But I could tell you that because I have now family, I consider family in Pennsylvania. If I'm ever in town, I'm like, hey, tocaya, can you get a hold of her? Let's get together
Of
because,
course. Now
and
you're gonna be like
let's go.
Maria Ray. Every time she gets sick, she's like, "Friend, me duele esto, me duele."
I'm like, I don't talk pain. I'm like,
I
the
agree
way
too.
we talk pain, and we go sightseeing. We go, as she can tell you, we take a lot of selfies. She's taught me she's mastered the selfie picture and the
She
pose.
loved. She's my. You know the picture that I sent you
Yeah,
where I had
yeah.
flowers. She took that picture because we went out for my birthday, and she was like, "Hay que tomarte fotos, amiga."
She's my photographer. She's the one, I'm telling
I
you, my
love
my
her.
beautiful
Yeah.
light is her. So I've titled her my director of social media. Although she just kind of gives me hints and I get stuck on something and I go, how do you do this? And she's great, very resourceful. But
She
I
is. I
wanna
love Maria.
make I want to make my way there eventually, not when it's snowing, because I know you guys are dealing with
You don't
me.
want to fall.
No, no, no. Me and cold weather really don't get along. I'm a very tropical, warm weather type. But I hear and I've been encouraged to go around the fall when you guys are really. So
Yes. Let me know. Well, let Maria know. So I would love to
um
meet you in person.
now you guys you're now I just hope you know you're now in a circle of love. So you're now in a circle of because I go there, is gonna meet Sam and then we're actually gonna be see each other sometime this year because we have a retreat in Washington. So
She always tells me when she goes, and she's always sending me pictures and
So
sending me
you should try.
audios
You
and
should try to
everything.
go. You were part of the Mana, first year. So you should. I recommend you try to see if you can go to the conference and
Okay.
get to meet and not only be an inspiration to the younger hermanitas, but get to meet some of the older hermanas that are just be
Maria
like,
got me a book and she got it signed and everything. I remember she messaged me. She said, "Amiga, I got you a book. It was written by one of the you might have it. Yeah, yeah, I have it." And she got it signed for me and everything, and I loved it. And I
okay,
was like,
okay,
"Amiga."
you need to listen to her episode. I just recorded her last week.
Oh, I haven't. Okay,
Okay, so
I will.
she did I love because she's an hermana like you and I, and this cat basically are 50 Latinas in their journey, and they have 10 leadership lessons from each. And I've read this book, and I was just telling her she is, just so you know a little bit about her. It's just I love that you have that book because it's a great reference. She's a former House of Representative from Kansas.
Wow.
You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
and so, and hermana, she's an author, and I'm proud to say this week she was actually working with Dolores Huerta because they're trying to get the vote out in Texas. So these are the type of women that you're gonna be around if you come to one of our conferences and you leave, you're like, okay, now I know I can lean on them for any mentoring, any guidance, and it's paying it forward too because when I go in, I'm like, I come back re-energized from the women
Love that.
that I'm standing on their shoulders, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to create a pathways for the ones that are coming behind me. And it's like, how can I
Behind me.
help
Yeah.
you? How can I encourage you? How can I cheer for you? How can I celebrate you? How can I tell you? And this is what I'm doing ultimately with this podcast, sharing the stories.
Like, María, ¿por qué no me habías contado de esto? She's like, friend, and she sent me an audio. She told me all about it, and then she eventually told me, she's like, hey, like, would you be okay with me sharing your contact information? I was like, yeah, of course, but please let her know I'm busy, and if I don't answer back, I'm not ignoring her. I'm probably at the hospital.
I'm
And
glad because I'm
but I
like,
love this.
I'm persistent because I'm like, if they tell me, I'm like, I'm gonna give it a try until, if unless I get blocked. I haven't got that yet, but
No, I would.
you know, I'm like because I feel like stories need to be told, and we come
Yeah.
in different, backgrounds, and our girls, especially right now, our girls need to hear the story, right? And it's important that we're there to support each other, and this is what
Mm-hmm.
this is for. So I'm learning a lot of new things with this new project that was inspired by hermanas in the organization. And next week, I have several episodes I'm recording from leaders in our communities and
Okay.
leaders in our organization that that I hope can inspire more. If anybody, if you know that their story needs to be shared, send them over. This is the right
I will.
place for them, for us to grow. And I recommend you follow and subscribe, and so you can get in tune with what's going on and hear the other incredible stories. Listen to that one. Honorable De La Garcia, her episode launched this week. It's already on
Okay.
YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon. And that's also another really good one that's launching on Monday. She's the youngest. hermanita, and she is a badass at 18 years old, and she's part of.
Wow, so young, yeah.
She's 18 years old, and she has an incredible story to tell, but it also comes from a humble background. Her parents set the tone, and just like your parents, inspire her, encourage her, and support her journey. And they the opposite of what typically probably their parents taught them. They encourage her to pursue her dreams, and now she's fighting for civil rights, for justice, for Latinos,
We
immigrants.
need that.
It's only 18. So these are the
So,
stories that need to be told because we need to continue inspiring the next generation.
Mhm.
And including those that we need to get like re-energized by hearing someone struggle, because often someone struggles makes us realize that we're not alone in our journey. We have someone that we can relate. So this is what it's for. So I want to say thank you for taking your time, taking time
Thank
out
you
of
for
your busy
having me.
schedule to join me today, for me to get the opportunity to know you. Now I'm like, that's it. Sandra, you're like, you're now part of our family. You're part of
I
our
love it.
circle. So te voy a
Thank you,
visitar
Maria.
la próxima vez que esté allá, and maybe we can go try some of your Mexican food. I'm a
Of
foodie.
course,
We're foodies, by the way. So
some
just,
tacos, una torta.
I'm like, yeah, we're foodies. One of the things we like to explore when we get together is like, okay, where are we gonna go try?
Where are we going?
Yeah, where we going? And have a nice little drink, of course, So where we're in town, we'll get together and we get to enjoy in person, get to know more each other in person.
Oh, I love this. Thank you so much. You
My
are such a
pleasure.
sweetie.
Aw.
You're so sweet. I love it. You made me feel very comfortable and I felt like I could just talk. It didn't feel like an interview. It didn't feel like, sometimes you watch a podcast and it feels like
Yeah.
it's like an awkward conversation. I didn't feel like that. So thank you so much. And thank you for creating this safe space for Latinas. And I hope you get to be the best podcast in the US, in the world, and everywhere.
Well, from your mouth
I
to God's
hope so. I
ear.
hope you grow.
I just want to be able to share the stories, and I enjoy because just watching you light up, being in this side of the lens, seeing you light up, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna be a badass doctor. I want to be in your care, because I get
course.
sometimes they're like, they see you as a number, right? But you actually can tell that you care and you are in the
I
right
love my
fields.
patients, yeah.
So I am beyond proud of finally getting to know you and getting to know your story.
Thank you.
And looking forward to meet you in person. So I want to say thank you once again for joining us today and sharing your stories. To our listeners, thank you for holding space for us and joining us today and being part of our Ina Niña journey. Until next time, thank you. Thank you, mija. Te quiero.
Thank you, hermosa. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for holding space for me. And thank you for allowing me to walk beside you as you heal your inner niña. Until next time, please don't forget to follow and subscribe.